Hey guys, this is a video tutorial on an introduction to Adobe Audition, Creative Cloud / Adobe Audition CS6. At this point, all of the production studios have been updated to have Adobe Audition CS6 or better. So they're very similar. There are some additional tools in Adobe Audition Creative Cloud, but I will keep it to mostly just the stuff that's in Adobe Audition CS6. So many of us are familiar with, and some of us still use the older versions like 3.0, 1.5, I think is, I think we've banished all of the old versions. But there are a lot of useful tools in Adobe Audition CS6 that we need to be using to make sure that we are keeping things consistent across the board, especially with regards to volume, etc. So when you open Adobe Audition, it looks something like this here. It may look totally different, and there's an easy way to get things back to the way you're used to them looking. If you go up to Window, and I'm on Mac, so this is going to be a little different, but it still should be Window, Window, Workspace, and under Workspace you can click Default. Now you'll notice there are other workspaces as well. I've got my own custom ones that I've made based on the type of work I do, and you can certainly create and save your own workspaces as well for your preferred workflow. But we're just going to keep things simple for now. So if you go to Window, Workspace, Default, that will take you to something like this, where you've got the Edit window in here. These are the files that you've imported that you're working with. Media Browser. I like to just drag and drop things myself, but this is an easy way to kind of look through and find files as well. Just for a moment here, we'll go back to Workspace. You'll notice there's some other ones, even one for radio production. This can work in some cases. I like things a little different. You'll notice metadata window, which we will talk about in another tutorial, but this is just a basic way of getting things to how you're used to them looking. Some other real basic things. So you've got your levels here, history, video, media browser. I mentioned those things, selection view. One thing that might help you to know is you can always rearrange these windows as you like by clicking, and you can drag them around. So you can put, like I just preference, like to put my levels on the side like that. I like that. Selection view, a lot of times I'll just throw that down here. I don't even use history, video. So what I'm doing here is I'm just right-clicking on stuff that I don't want. I don't like to use the media browser personally. So I right-click on that and I go Close Panel. Now Close Panel here, Markers, Properties. Let's say I accidentally close something. Whoops, oh, I wanted that. Or whoops, oh, I deleted all that stuff by accident. You can always find those windows again here by just going to Window. And let's see, so I wanted the selection view. So there we go, brings it back. I can resize these windows as I like. Metadata, that's one that I use quite often. I like to put that over on this side just because I like to keep all my kind of working or the more options windows all on one side so I can have the maximum amount of space for editing. One other thing that's super useful, here's another little trick. You can maximize whatever window you have selected. So a lot of times if I'm doing some critical editing and I'm just flying through and want the most amount of real estate on my screen to look at that, you can hit the tilde key, which is that key, the little squiggly line that's just to the left of the 1 up in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. So if you just hit that, maximizes it. So let's say and you can bring it back to normal by hitting that tilde key again. So that just toggles back and forth if you're maximizing that window or getting it back to where it was normally. So if you're just recording a piece here, and again, well, I haven't said this yet, but the standards for all of the audio that we do here sample rate of 44/100. Channels, mono. Now this is if you're working with music or a stereo source, then you obviously want this to be stereo. But if you're just recording your voice, just do mono. Otherwise, you're making a file size that's twice as big when there's no stereo information at all. So keep it a mono if you're just recording your vocals. If you're working with a stereo source like music or something like that, then you want to do it in stereo. Bit depth should always be 16. This is critical. So 44/100 and 16. Those are the important ones. So let's say you're recording something there. Hi, I'm Carl, blah, blah, blah. Then you want to maximize that. You just hit that tilde key. And that's you've got plenty of real estate to work with. It's nice. I like it. I use it all the time. Especially if I'm like, say, I've got doing voice tracking and I have a log alongside, then I give myself the maximum space, or, whatever. It's just about, giving yourself the most flexibility. So that's that. We'll get to some of the more in-depth specifics, but let's say I've created a workspace that I really like. All I have to do is go to Window, Workspace, Save as New Workspace. So, and then we'll just call this Demo. And then boom. And then in my version here, it'll show it up top, so you can easily click between the different kind of workspaces that you use. Or Window Workspace. Like here's my preferred setup. Or Demo, which is basically the exact same thing that we just saw. So that is just how you kind of navigate through. Another thing that happens fairly frequently, unfortunately, is you'll come to a file and it'll look like this. And you're like, oh, what's this? Well, this is spectral editing. This is something different. You can do really cool, really precise stuff with this. I'll do another video on some of this. But if you open a file and it looks like this, or it can also look like, let me see, how does it'll look like this sometimes. So there's this bar, and it'll be up at the top or the bottom sometimes, if you get the split view like that. So then all you have to do is you just click that bar and you just pull it down. If it ends up looking like this, then there's a shortcut, Shift D, or that switches back and forth between waveform and spectral view. Or there's, if you can see this display up here. Oh, that's a little something different. I'll do a video on spectral editing, and we'll see how to do that. And there's some really, really cool stuff you can do with that. But that's a more advanced technique. We're just going to keep it with the waveform view for now. So one other way to switch back and forth between those is go up to View, boom, View. So that's just a toggle on and off thing. So those are some of the basics, some of the things you might encounter, and ways to kind of get back to the basics. Again, you can always go Window, Workspace, and the two that you're probably most used to seeing are either going to be Default, or there's another one in here that they call Classic, which is similar. Some of the older versions of Audition, you'd open them and they'd look like this. So 3.0 especially, I believe. So that's some of the very basics on Adobe Audition CS6 and Creative Cloud. You can count on looking forward to more videos. I'll go in depth. We'll talk about multi-tracking. We'll talk about best practices, the fastest, most efficient way of doing voice tracking and things like that. We'll get to that all soon. So enjoy.